doing this movie, the two most famous football announcers at the time.
I was wondering, was that the John Madden?
That was the John Madden
Okay.
of
Playing
Madden
playing
football.
playing himself, right?
Yes, and Pat Summerall playing himself. Those two, they worked together for almost all of my childhood.
Is that why
Um,
the video games are named after him?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Dad, you're like Sherlock Holmes
Is
tonight.
he the same guy that did the shoes?
What shoes?
I finally
Watched.
I finally
Watched.
I
finally
watched. I
finally
watched.
I finally
Watched.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of I Finally Watched. This is David.
And this is Alain, and I finally watched The Replacements.
So, I don't know that this is going to be many people's favorite football movie, not even necessarily their favorite football comedy, but I love this movie, and I have not seen it in years. We never do this, but this is our movie coming out the week of the Super Bowl in honor of football. And I was like, we should just do it because I picked out a pile of Blu-rays the other day, and I was like, let's start going through. These are like good options for us to do. And yeah, I think this is just a pretty good movie. It had some bad like critics reviews, and I was just like, what are you guys fucking expecting? Like, what are we looking for here that you're like, no, this wasn't it.
There was like a je ne sais quoi about it that I wanted. There was something more I wanted. I don't know if I wanted like Remember the Titans. Like I think I wanted it to be a little bit more like Remember the Titans. And in whatever way that's possible with this film. Um I mean, to be honest, watching Remember the Titans was so long ago. I don't even know. I forget what the movie's about. But I remember it fulfilling something. Like, okay, have you ever seen the movie Angels in the Outfield?
Yes.
Okay. You remember at the end, like, how good you felt at the end where, like, Christopher Lloyd is, like, an angel now?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't feel that at the end. I didn't feel that good at the end. Like, the ending of this was, like, unfulfilling to me.
You're not a sports guy. That's the problem with that. Is you're not a sports guy.
Is that it?
And
No,
so
because I like Any Given Sunday. I like Friday Night Lights, and I think those two are better movies than this. But I don't know if I wanted this to be funnier, if I wanted this to be more heartfelt. There was just something about it that I was just maybe I am maybe you're right. Maybe now that I think about it, you know what it is? I think it ended too happy.
well, and so with Any Given Sunday and Friday Night Lights, there is a lot surrounding it that I think more pulls you in. Where
Mm,
this relies solely on the football. Like the thesis of this movie is like that these guys are better because they're doing it for the love of the game rather than
sure.
than
The
the
money and the women and the fame.
which, by the way, in 2000, that was a time where you could pit the nation against millionaire football players because they want more money from billionaire owners. And I think now people understand, like, well, no, fuck the fuck those owners because they have way more money, and they're being
Yeah.
stingy in a sport that
Well, when Gene Hackman is walking through the owner's like mega McMansion, and I'm just like, I don't. This is his bad guy, right? Is this like the villain? I mean, he's not portrayed as like the greatest guy in the movie, but he definitely wasn't like the villain. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. It's just like we have less less sympathy for billionaires now.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely recently people did. And really quick though, so this was directed by Howard Deutsch, who is the husband of Leah Thompson and therefore the father of Zoe Deutsch.
Oh,
And he also did Pretty in Pink, and he now does a lot of TV. In the last movie he was allowed to do,
allowed.
what I think because it didn't do well, was My Best Friend's Girl with Dane Cook. Dane Cook ruined this
Oof.
man's film career
I think Dane Cook ruined a lot of people's careers,
single-handedly.
including his own, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, he seems to be doing all right now. I think he made quite enough money.
Having a
Um,
20-year-old girlfriend doesn't necessarily mean you're doing all right.
no, I just meant the millions and millions he made on tour.
Oh, okay.
And I imagine his 20-year-old girlfriend's probably hot. So you said that the ending, like it ended too happy for you, it didn't work for you as well as the other movies. I was fucking choking up at the end of this movie.
You were?
Yeah, I was just like,
See,
this is so
my
good.
Taylor turned to me and was like, "Well, you didn't cry. It must not be that good." I was like, "Fair."
Well, that is how it goes for you.
The thing is, though, it's like, okay, so I enjoyed, and I always enjoy a getting the crew together montage, right?
Hmm.
And like, I mean, it was a little basic, right? It was a little like by the by the book, color by numbers, where it's okay, we got this guy, right? And we got this guy who's good at this, and it'll
You know
make
what?
him.
You know what that reminded me of, and it's a movie you haven't seen because it would. I think you would have liked it a lot more. It reminded me of Moneyball.
I've seen Moneyball.
Oh, well, okay. Well, then it reminds me of the scene in Moneyball where he's like, "What does this guy do? He can't hit. He can't do this." He's like, "But what does he do? He gets on base." And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna go get a sumo wrestler because what is sumo wrestling? You know, it's blocking and he can push a guy. I'm gonna get this kicker. Why? Because he can kick the ball a fuck ton away. Like, and he kicks a 65-yard in the game. He's like basically looking on the margins to put a team together, which is kind of like the whole Oakland A's thing in Moneyball.
Remember when we did Moon, and I said my first viewing of Moon was with Sam Rockwell because my school did this thing with like famous people.
Okay.
So we had Wally Pfister, who did all the cinematography for Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy.
Okay.
And you would think, oh, Wally Pfister is coming, the cinematographer for the Dark Knight trilogy. We'd watch the Dark Knight. No, he also did the cinematography for Moneyball, so we watched Moneyball with him.
Honestly, not a bad like that movie looks pretty good and the
Yeah.
baseball looks pretty good, so
Yeah.
that's not a bad choice. Um but yeah, the whole time I'm watching that scene, obviously it made me think of Moneyball, but then also Rick and Morty making fun of the getting the crew together scene like over and over again. Like
Yeah.
those are the two things. I think the other thing that elevates this movie is having Gene Hackman as your head coach
Yeah.
because Gene Hackman is obviously like great dramatically. He's good in like kind of action thrillers, but he's also just his straight man is funny.
Yeah, I think that's why he works so well as Lex Luthor. And that's like the thing I know him from the most, right? Of course, I'm a big Superman fan. So, but Gene Hackman brings a comedic appeal to Lex Luthor that you don't really like. It's like it's snarky and like kind of dry sometimes, and it's interesting. His character is probably like the thing that holds this movie together the most, him and Keanu, because it's I don't know how to say it. He kind of brings like the whole like um the owner part of the football with like the player base. I think that's cool.
So this movie starts out with a song by Lit, who like their most famous song, "My Own Worst Enemy."
I saw
Um,
them in concert.
this totally like places the movie when you watch it too.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the music from this movie is, I think, really good, but also like totally. This came out in 2000, but this is totally like late 90s.
So I saw Lit in concert. And I've never heard of them before, and Taylor's like, "You've never heard of Lit before?" And we're sitting there in the we're watching them, and she's like, "You know this song, right?" And Ziploc plays, right? And she's like, "You know this song, right?" I'm like, "I have no idea what this song is." Now, flash forward to us watching this movie, and I'm like, "Ah, I know this song." Um, I do want to talk about the music in this film for a second because it it has. Do you remember like Friday Night Lights starts out with Black Betty, and it's like a really good football movie, really good football song.
Okay.
Um, this movie in like a span of 15 minutes hits every great sports song. Like, and I was just like, well, they weren't willing to miss anything, were they?
The other thing though that does is because once again, you're not a sports guy. I don't think you've been to a game. If you go to a game,
I'm into a
especially
game.
if you go to the game, especially early 2000s, they just play all those songs in the stadium. So you're in the stadium watching the game, and like those songs are going on.
Is that what the movie's trying to do though? Is it trying to make
Yes,
you feel like you're there?
Any Given Sunday did that a little bit too.
It did, but not as like thick. Like it didn't put it on as thick as this movie did. Like, okay, I have it in front of me here. Let me tell you what songs that played. Okay, "Moon Is Up" by the Rolling Stones, "Bust a Move" by Young MC.
Hmm.
Okay, um, "Rowdy" by Font 48, "Rock and Roll" by Gary Glitter, "Good Vibrations," "Taking Care of Business," "I Will Survive." Of course, we'll get into that in a second. Um, and then "You Got Me Rocking," "Bad Girls," "Everybody Dance Now." I mean, it's like every single fucking hype song. There's even a song called "Pump Up the Volume," which I thought was a good nod towards one of our recent reviews. But yeah, every single hype song.
And I think it's used perfectly, so I don't have a
Okay.
problem with it. So
Okay.
the movie starts out. We have a player strike, and Gene Hackman's brought in. I love the opening of this. First of all, you have Pat Summerall and John Madden doing this movie, the two most famous football announcers at the time.
I was wondering, was that the John Madden?
That was the John Madden
Okay.
of
Playing
Madden
playing
football.
playing himself, right?
Yes, and Pat Summerall playing himself. Those two, they worked together for almost all of my childhood.
Is that why
Um,
the video games are named after him?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Dad, you're like Sherlock Holmes
Is
tonight.
it is he the same guy that did the shoes?
What shoes?
Never mind.
I
That
don't,
answered my question.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I think that was Chuck Taylor. So, also the line from the one guy is like, are you sure you guys need to make more money?" And Martell's like, "Hey, $5 million seems like a lot, but I got to pay this guy. And then the other guy
Oh,
comes
I'm
in.
thinking of Steve Madden. Sorry, go ahead.
Nah, just move on. Insurance, you know how much insurance costs for a Ferrari. That's what I was going to say. But you had to let people know that you got John Madden mixed up with Steve Madden. I think they already realized, not what you're talking about in this area. But
Okay. That scene is in there to kind of like slap us in the face about how rich these people are, right?
it is. I mean, as I said, it's the whole point of this movie is how these like it's lambasting these players for wanting more money, wanting more. When in reality, it's like they're wanting more of a piece of the pie. Like these guys are already highly paid, and it's the entertainment we're watching. So it's like I don't know why we care which one of them keeps the money.
Yeah.
Um, so they bring in Gene Hackman and set the stakes immediately. If you win 3 out of 4 of these games, then we can make the playoffs. Um, and he's like, "All right, I will do this, but I have to have complete control of the team," which is like, he's gonna get, but probably not really, right? Like everything is set up in this one conversation for like the end of the movie, the stakes that are gonna happen at the very like last 30 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
Um, then we have the getting the crew together scene. Favreau is a SWAT officer. The Orlando Jones thing is so funny. Him like sitting there with like Spider-Man hands waiting to catch the Twinkie and then not only missing it, but then stepping on it. And then Reese Ifans, the kicker. And then we got Shane Falco, Keanu Reeves, former Ohio State quarterback. This is the second movie we have done where Keanu Reeves plays an Ohio State quarterback.
Oh, is it? Oh shit, you're right. It's Point Break.
Point Break, yeah. And in that one, I think I should have looked back, but I think that one he was like, "Oh, you took Ohio State to the Rose Bowl," and this time he lost in the Sugar Bowl to FSU.
Yeah.
So he did much better maybe in that one. And then he's like, this part is so 2000s football. He's like, "Yeah, I got 3 concussions," and Gene Hackman's like, "That's why girls don't play." And it's just like you're like, "Yeah, you're a man because you got 3 concussions in that
Yeah.
football game." And then I love the line too. What separates winners from losers? And Keanu Reeves says the score. And she's like,
It's good.
That's
It
a
was
good line.
good. Yeah, it's a good line. What the fuck does he do?
What do you mean?
Like that later on in the movie, he's like, this. I think either the girl. I think it's the girl that comes to his boat, and he's like, "I got a job. I can't let my clients down." I'm like, what the fuck do you do?
He scrapes barnacles off of boats.
He scrapes barnacles off of
He
boats.
cleans boats, yeah. He
Oh,
cleans the outside
okay.
of rich people's
I was
boats.
confused because I knew it had something to do with like going underwater, scuba diving, but then the first scene we get introduced to him, which I thought was actually a pretty cool scene. I was a little bit like, what the fuck is going on? But then like in context, I was like, all right, it's kind of fun. Is he's like at the bottom of the bay with a football pretending to play football underwater, which is kind I imagine kind of how like the real Keanu Reeves would play football.
He actually, and that is his trophy too. It says Shane Falco on it. Like he had thrown his trophy from something in the water,
Oh,
and he
I
takes
didn't
the
even put
foot.
that together.
Yeah, the opening of this felt like an MTV movie. Like it's you have lit playing, and then he's
Okay, yeah.
under the water throwing. I was like, who made this? And it's just WB. I
Hmm.
mean, although like the production company could have been whoever. Um, so then everyone shows up for practice. Keith David with just a small scene where he's like, "This goes against the Constitution, the Emancipation Proclamation," just like going off. And I did think I was like, it is a bit absurd that these players would be there to protest the replacement players showing up. Like these rich guys are not going to show up for that. They're just going to be like at home.
With eggs.
Yeah, yeah. You can't
Like
afford eggs at a time like that.
like I can imagine the other parts where they show up to like fuck with the other players personally, but like standing in front of the bus and throwing eggs at them, like that's kind of weird.
Uh,
Um
Orlando Jones taking photos as they're cracking the window too.
oh, because they're famous to him,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
so good. And then they eventually they push over Falco's truck, which I love the payoff for that. Which also doesn't make sense, but I love it.
No, and well, yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Um, the guy, well, Keanu Reeves doesn't really strike me as a football player. Like he's not really built as a quarterback in my head. But the guy who is picketing, that's not the right word. Is it the right word?
Yeah,
Picketing?
protesting.
Protesting? He also does not come off as a football player to me.
Martell.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at this and I was like, Keanu does not. All the football players look very odd. And what I mean is like, so the guy who's a convict, who he's Ray Smith, like in his uniform. He looks like he's wearing a linebacker uniform. He looks huge, but then in reality, when you see that guy, he's like very tiny. Like when he's not in the football pads.
Yeah.
Um, and then just like all the like when Orlando Jones is going out on his route, it looks like a fucking linebacker is guarding him. Like a defensive back should be guarding him, and it should be a very small person. And he like picks him up and slams him like he's a fucking Monstar from Space Jam.
But like, I mean, there's padding though.
It just the look of it was very odd to me, like noticeably, and like the numbers too. Like that guy's wearing a 42, which by the way, fucking red. The guy that plays Wilkinson was convicted in 2016 of murdering his wife, and he is in jail for 40 years to life. Just
The
fucking
guy
nuts.
who was actually in jail in the movie.
Yeah, well, he was in prison. He was on a work release
Work
in the
release,
movie,
yeah.
but it's just
Um,
fucking nuts. Yeah, and back to Keanu real quick because I want to say this at some point. So there was a report that Keanu got so good at football that the Ravens were impressed with him and offered him a tryout. And
okay.
I was like, that makes no sense. Because half the time he is shown throwing the ball, they do a cut to where you can't see his face. And I think they cut one time where a long pass is going. I was like, that doesn't look like Keanu in the mask. And then a lot of throws are from behind. I was like, this makes no sense. And then on the Sonic 3 press tour, someone asked him, because he's playing Shadow in the new movie, someone
Yeah.
asked him if that was true. And he was like, that is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh my god.
He's like, that did not happen.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious to ask about the replacements in a Sonic 3 Pro store.
I appreciate someone like fucking figuring this out 24 years later. That's
I
like
mean, it's
going
good. It's
around.
good. So, how do you pronounce his name? Reese Ifans?
I think so. Yeah.
Um, Also, I know he's wiry. He's
Wiry.
wiry. Wiry.
Wiry. Warrior Wee.
But yeah, he doesn't come off as a football player. I almost wonder if it was like a typecast thing where it's like purposely casting people opposite of what you would think that they would need, kind of like how you would go about with the replacements, right?
Faison Love looked huge in this. Like he actually looked like he could be a lineman, just like a little bit shorter. But he was ginormous in this. I think he's gone down a little bit since then. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole. This is like a ragtag bunch that can do just kind of one good thing. And then you have the guy, the deaf guy, come in, and he's like, he would be in the NFL or a pro if it weren't for the fact that he's deaf because he is so great. Did you recognize who Brian Murphy is?
Oh yeah, from The Office,
That's
Pam's beau.
Pam's fiance. Yeah, I didn't. It took me a while to figure out that that was him.
So they set these guys up with like one thing, and this is the cutesy part I'm talking about, like ending the movie too perfect, is that each person wanted something, right? Like Reese's character, he had to keep his bar. And then the other guy, before he's thrown back in prison, needs to do a touchdown, right? And then the other
Needs
what?
to do a touchdown. He's got
Well,
to do a touchdown.
that was like his goal.
It was to get a touchdown. You don't do a touchdown.
Well, once you get it, you do it, right?
I guess so. You have to do it to get it.
Yeah, exactly. So shut up. And then who else had like a very specific thing they wanted to do?
Creature wanted a touchdown. He got it.
Oh, and then they kept like, I felt so bad for the deaf guy's character. Like he kept getting shit on, and then
But he gets the game winner.
but he gets the game winner, right? So it's like, okay,
And the hottest stripper.
you think so?
Of the strippers? Yeah, I don't
No,
know.
of the stripper, not Langdon though.
No, Annabelle, was that her name? Yeah, no, she was.
Yeah,
I've never seen
Brooke
her.
Langton.
I've never recognized her in anything since. Yeah, I do agree that. The other thing about the Reese Ifans thing is there's this scene. I feel like there's some scenes that are cut because this is a 2-hour movie. So you see these mafia Goomba looking guys in a bar like, hey, that's the guy that owes us money. Like, oh, okay, well, he's going to start missing some kicks if he wants to keep his bar. And then there's not a scene where they like meet him up and are like, hey, you better miss kicks or else we're going to take your bar. There's no
Right,
scene.
we just assume that that's the case.
Because then they're at the game. I feel like there had to have been a cut scene. I almost thought I had seen it at some point. Like maybe in a scene that made it on television or something. You know how they used to do that? Where there'd be like a scene that was not in the theatrical movie.
Oh yeah.
But then they'd add shit like when it was on USA or whatever. There has to be a scene where they met up with him because then he just sees them in the crowd and he just knows by looking at them that they're like, you better miss kicks. We need you to miss kicks.
I mean they're the like bookies, right? So I guess they have money betting on the other team winning.
But they didn't never told him that.
No, I know.
Never communicated to him.
By the way, we did a movie on the pod with Brooke Langton.
I think I saw what it was because I looked it up earlier.
You could just ask me.
Tell me.
Swingers.
You know, I did. So I did read that. Yeah, I don't remember her at all.
She plays. I'm telling you, she plays the girl that their Mike John Favreau's character.
Voicemail girl.
Voicemail girl.
That's hilarious, and that came out before this. So like, oh, that's really funny.
This came out. Yeah, that came out 4 years before this, and now they're on the same movie.
That's hilarious. So after this, you know, we've had our first practice. The sumo guy comes in. Keanu shows up, immediately hits on the head cheerleader, and then we get the cheerleader tryouts, which is a very funny scene.
It is, but I don't think you could do something like that today.
With like the girls that are less than able to be cheerleaders. But I think the movie, like obviously, so they're not conventionally attractive to be cheerleaders. That's like part of the joke. But it's also they're horrible cheerleaders.
There was you remember the kind of the goth looking girl?
Uh-huh.
Taylor turns to me and she goes, "Oh, look, it's your ex," which hurt me really deep, actually.
Oh yeah, it was like,
yeah,
it was doing like beat poetry.
Yeah, it struck deep.
She's I mean, pregnant Taylor's kind of an asshole to you.
That's what her mom says. no one in her family listens to this, so I can say that.
Oh, so the next scene I wanted to talk about, not for anything, but just I think it's funny that so Orlando Jones starts talking. He's like, "Oh, Kenny Wilkinson, man, like, what's up?" And he's like, "Oh man, I went to prison," and he's like, "Yeah, I didn't, you didn't do anything wrong to those cops, and cops are pigs or whatever." And then and John Favreau was like, "I'm a cop." That scene, they start looking like Wilkinson and Favreau kind of look at each other like, like a nod. I was like, this is like the Heat, Pacino and De Niro meeting in a diner scene. Like they have a mutual understanding.
Actually, so before that, the oh my god, what's his name? The assistant coach,
Uh,
Art something.
yeah,
He goes to pick up
Wilkinson.
Wilkinson. Thank you. So
His name is
Art LaFleur is the
Baines.
actor. Baines. There we go. Thank you. He goes to pick up Wilkinson at where the cops are dropping him off. The line where he goes, "Hey, let's get out there," where there's witnesses.
People can hear me scream. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's going in screaming range. That's what
Yeah.
he said.
So we get to the first game. This is after the cheerleader said, "I don't date football players," and we're all like, "Okay, sure." And they're playing Detroit, who just bought a semi-pro team, and we have the sumo guy eating eggs, and he's like, "I have to bulk up," and it's like you can't bulk up for a game that's 10 minutes away. Like the bulking up has to be done before this. You're just like filling your stomach up.
Oh, was it? What was the football movie we did where it was like, "It's not my life."
Varsity
Blues.
I don't want your life.
I don't want your life. Okay, Varsity Blues, right? Was it Varsity Blues where there was another throw up thing?
Any Given Sunday, Willie Beeman.
Oh shit, it was Any Given Sunday.
But I think the fat guy in Varsity Blues also blew chunks because he ate too much.
See, it's a trope.
It's just a football thing. Yeah, that's the thing you got to have in there. Which Varsity Blues, I think, came before this. And then I think Any Given Sunday is 2001. But I mean, they're all made around relatively the same time. Varsity Blues is 99. This is 2000. 2001 Any Given
There we
Sunday.
go. There we go. I also want to point out that this is 2000. That makes Keanu Reeves in the middle of the Matrix trilogy.
That's true.
Came out in 99, the first one did, and I'm pretty sure it came out in 2001, 2003?
Had a lull. He grew his hair out for this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was thinking that, and also he looked a little bulkier in this than he did as Neo.
I mean, maybe, when The Matrix came out, there's probably a little bit of lead time between. This is probably filmed in 99. So The Matrix came out. There was a little bit of a lead time where they weren't sure what that was going to be. That wasn't like an independent movie, but it was sort of like they didn't know what was going to happen with that. And it blew up.
Think about when you shoot it, how long it took to put those graphics in the movie, like to finish the end of the movie.
Especially in 99.
Especially in 99. So they probably filmed it maybe in like 96, 97. Took them 3 or 4 years to get it out. So he had time. Yeah, you're right. Also, it is kind of weird to think of Keanu Reeves as like this kind of role. Because I think like the newer generation now regards him as John Wick, which is like high octane action movie star.
Right.
And then back in the 90s, we also regarded him as a high octane action movie star as The Matrix. But every other movie outside of John Wick and The Matrix, he's like this guy, just a guy, right?
A vibe. He's a vibe.
He is a vibe, especially like earlier, like Bill and Ted era. He was very like, you would not picture him in these kind of roles nowadays.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, and he also does a little bit of he's done some rom-com work too.
He might be the greatest actor who ever lived.
I mean, I don't even know how you argue against it. So, you got Jon Favreau channeling like his inner water boy in the game.
So confused by that character. so confused by that.
Well, I mean, he's a cop and he just likes to cause pain to people, which is why he became a SWAT guy. That's like the whole, this is an anti-cop movie, really.
Yeah.
The stripper that can't spell, the running gag of that very funny each time. And then they throw up and they got to move. He's like, man, if we don't move, man, if someone else throws up, I'm gonna throw up too. And I love the thing where Ray Smith scores and John Madden's like, oh, the only thing we have on him is he's been a resident of the state of Maryland for the last 2.5 years.
Okay, please explain that to me, because I do not understand that.
That was it was a name for Wilkinson, the convict. He was going under an assumed name of Ray Smith, so people didn't know that a convict was playing football. He was on like a work release, I guess.
Okay, that was the same character. So why is that a bad thing?
What?
If they knew who he was really?
Because you're letting this guy get out just to win some football. The governor's pulling strings to allow the football team to win games.
I guess that wouldn't look too good.
What if you hurt somebody?
So I back in jail. So I was just confused with the name change, and then I'm like, we never hear about him again. I'm so lost, but that makes sense.
So I need that ball. Get me the ball, Danny. Where they're screaming at each other.
I got the ball, coach. I got the ball.
As he walks out, he's like, I hope he doesn't kill anybody. Then he brings it back. He's like, all right, sit down, Danny. And then they end up losing, and Gene Hackman gives him the winners always want the ball when the game is on the line thing. The fight afterwards is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I did think this time that if you do, like, they must have not fingerprinted these guys when they must have just been like, all right, we're going to put you guys in a holding cell for a little bit. We know you're the football team, but you're not the famous guys. So we're just going to put you in a cell for a little bit, and we'll release you we'll tell your coach to come pick you up. Because if they actually fingerprinted this guy and they're like, do we have this fucking armed robber who should be in prison right now that we just fingerprinted? Like, what's going on here?
Also, we have one of our own in here, cop.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And he's like, oh man, when he's like, oh, Wilkinson, he's fucking right at home in here. He's like, oh, you talking shit? And then they start singing the song. And at one point, fucking Falco just screams, Adrian, because he's like doesn't know what else to do.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. It's pretty good. And the coach comes in and he's like, if you ever do that again, you will not play for me. But man, I would have loved to seen that guy get his ass kicked.
It was good. It was really good.
I forgot to mention Orlando Jones was like, yeah, he wasn't the only one who got a piece too. He's like, what the fuck are you talking? You were hiding behind the jukebox.
I do like how everyone has their little character quirks, right? Like the deaf guy is still dancing.
Yeah.
Unaware that the coach is there, and Orlando Jones is like taps him on the shoulder. He's like, hey, stop.
And the way that the movie shows that the team has bonded is the next day when they flip his car, is Faison Love shoots out the car of Martell's car. It's just hilarious. He's like, son of a bitch, I'm a son of a bitch.
That was so good. That was so fun. And then how they just make him make them flip it back over.
And then it cuts to the assistant coach being like, all right, so if anyone has any firearms, no questions asked, please turn them in. They're just like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Then the fear speech. He's like, I'm scared of spiders, coach. He's like, well, that's not really what I meant.
I'm scared of spiders too.
He's like, well, I meant like on the field. He's like, there's spiders on the field?
When Keanu Reeves says quicksand, I was just like, and then Gene Hackman's like, that's not what he's talking about. And then he gets into this this, theological sort of speech. I'm like, I think the dude's just scared of quicksand. And then Gene Hackman was like, that's so stupid. He obviously means something else. And Keanu Reeves' character is just like, yeah.
That sounds, that's what I meant, coach.
Yeah.
Quicksand,
and there's some other guys like, and anvils. It's Wile E. Coyote in the back there.
So, game 2, and another trope of this movie, Varsity Blues, and Remember the Titans. Let him through. Let the defender through. And then in this one, he throws the football as hard as he can. It gets caught by the sumo guy who runs it in for a touchdown.
Oh, shit.
And that's
what he says.
Fat guy touchdown leads to fat guy dance.
Is this before or after Jon Favreau trips on the rope and tackles 5 cheerleaders?
It's after them. I think that was the first game.
So wait, so back up a second. You're telling me that none of these actors were like, every time we saw football, like a play, it was not them.
I don't know. I made this comment to you, Al. I think this is what you're leading to. This is a comment that I made off the pod where I was like, this movie is almost like Caligula. When they put the uniforms on and get on the field, it's like not the actors acting anymore. So I mean, like obviously you see John Favreau's face when he's like when they're like, oh, this is a John Favreau scene where he's gonna go tackle a guy. But like Wilkinson is not Ray Smith because that guy's way fucking bigger than him.
But you think these actors know they're filming a porn? I mean, fuck. I mean, football.
I don't think most of them are. I think they had football players they brought in. I think that's the way Any Given Sunday did it too for a lot of them. Like Any Given Sunday had like real professionals playing some of the parts.
I mean,
But I
it's
don't.
kind of a genius move, right? You can't do that with baseball because you don't have like a helmet covering your entire fucking face. So yeah, why
Basketball
not?
too. I mean, you
Yeah.
could maybe kind of do it with hockey, but there's not a lot of hockey movies.
Are you telling me Bugs Bunny was not actually out there playing basketball?
He might have been. He
Goddamn.
seems like he could play. So I don't remember if I've ever talked about this on the pod. I know I brought it up on with Garrett last time, but I think that was after we stopped recording because I told him we were doing the replacements. But this is for some reason this next scene. My dad decided like as children, so I would have been 13 in 2000. So he just decided like we should not be watching the replacements because of this next scene with the strippers grinding on each other, basically like almost dry humping, and the guys holding dollar bills at them and the mom covering the eyes. He was just like, this scene's too much.
He was covering your eyes. Was it like you were watching it with him up to this point and then he's like turned it off, or did he watch this and decided you and your brothers could not watch this?
But here's the thing, it wasn't like a he he was like, he was like, you should not be watching this, whatever, turn it off. But it's not, I still had the movie. Like he never stopped me. You know what I mean? Like I could just watch. He wasn't like, don't you ever watch that movie? She's like, man, you shouldn't be watching this movie's bad. It's got this in it, whatever.
You're like, Dad, I'm 13. I've watched ass to mouth porn. I'm fine. I get it.
I don't know if I'd seen that at that point. I wasn't that advanced. I was just typing in like boobs.
Boobs. That works.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird thing. I mean, it reminds me of when we saw either Scary Movie 1 or Scary Movie 2, and my dad came in like when a bad part wasn't on and then fell asleep, and it's just like dicks stabbing people in the ears or whatever like the scene in the bathroom is.
Okay,
So
I got a good one for you. So, Dukes of Hazzard is like an old 60s show, right?
yeah.
And so they remade it with Johnny Knoxville and Jessica Simpson and
I'm aware of the music video of Jessica Simpson, yeah.
right. So it's like it's not Christmas. It's like my mom used to put like gift baskets together for like other holidays for me and my sister. So it was like either Easter or something.
Right.
And so let's say Easter. So for Easter, we get a gift basket. I open it up. I don't know when this movie came out. 2007. I know it had to be earlier than that.
You're
But
getting a gift basket from your mom in 2007?
no, so I'm younger. I'm 5 years younger than you.
I mean, still, that would be embarrassing.
Not in the privacy of your own home, and it's a gift with some fucking
2005.
2005. Okay.
What are
So
you,
then
14? You're 14?
13. I'm 13.
All right, that's respectable. I'll allow it.
Actually, I might be 12 because if it was Easter, that means it was before my birthday. So I was 12.
Damn, you're young as shit.
Yeah, man. And so I open up the basket and there's a DVD. There might be a couple DVDs, but I really focus on this DVD. And it's the 2005 Jessica Simpson Dukes of Hazzard unrated version. And I don't think they knew like what the tone of this was. They probably thought it was more like the show back in the 70s, right? And so I took it and I was like, thanks, Mom. And I put it away real quick, right?
Yeah.
And it had so many boobs.
Did it?
Oh, yeah.
I actually might have watched that movie had I known. I didn't realize. I mean, it didn't have, as a young adult, it didn't have the ones you were probably looking for at that time.
What was I looking for?
Jessica Simpson. I mean, you weren't going to get that.
Oh no, you're not gonna get that. But they like go into the sorority, and like it was just like topless Tuesday, and they walk in, and all the sorority girls are topless. But I mean, it's the unrated version, right? So you got to watch that.
That movie had a $50 million budget and made 111 million. That was a success.
You could do that in
So
2005, though.
yeah, not anymore. I mean, that's IP though. They're probably going to remake it. Except you can't remake Dukes of Hazzard because of the General Lee. So that shows that IP's gone.
It's it's a one and done sort of thing.
So to end this game, the field goal kicker kicks a 65-yard field goal, which at the time would have been a professional football record that has since the record's now 66 yards. I also just love. I think he's smoking on the field right now as he's like takes the cigarette and flicks it onto the field, and then he running from Danny to is very funny from Jon Favreau. And then next he goes to the bar, gives a little peck on the cheek to the cheerleader as he's leaving.
Every step you take.
That was very off key, but yeah, Sting plays it. They just stare at each other. Those fuck me stares that they
Every
give.
move you make.
Do you think they just banged right on the bar, or do they at least like go to someone's place after that? You know what I mean?
You got to bang on the bar.
On the bar. That's how Raylan would have done it.
That's why it's called the tap.
And that just bleeds into the third game. The use of Stickum on his hands, very funny. It's like it looks like I jacked off an elephant.
Yeah, I don't know why Taylor was like not looking at that part. She looked up when he said that, and it cuts to them playing the game, and she goes, "Why does he look like he just jacked off an elephant?"
That's hilarious. So, some actual good football here is Orlando Jones runs a play. He's pretty wide open, and he drops it. They're like, we're going to run the exact same play, but you're going to have Stickum. And when they run the exact same play, he has double coverage. There are two people who are just going to block this play. Like this one, they're like, why are you guys doing this again? You're lining up the exact same way. And, but he still catches it with the Stickum. And then he can't get it off his hand. It's all very good. But I just like the point of like, it's actually pretty good football that they're like, the defenders would try and stop this time. Like they would be prepared for this play.
So when Keanu Reeves, I know this happened a while ago, but he does the play that Gene Hackman does not call, right? And he gets onto him for it. But he does that play because of what Annabelle said to him the night before, right?
Oh, maybe. I don't remember.
Annabelle says something about like
no. She was like, yeah, this guy on this side's good. The other guy, he's hungover all the time, so go to that side or something. She gave him a lot of different advice.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie's making you think, oh, he's scared of the moment. And he's like, I saw Blitz. And he's like, no, you didn't see Blitz. You were scared. And it turned out I don't think there was a Blitz. So he's like, you were scared. That's why win. And he says winners want the ball, which is also like a mentality of like an older generation of like winners want to try and win them to be the ones to win, even if they can see another option that would like a better chance of winning.
Sure.
So then Martell is coming back, and he's crossed the picket line, and this is the owner telling Gene Hackman, and he said the entire Dallas team is crossed. So now it's like, oh, and by the way, Dallas is the best team in the league. They're the world champions. So now this game is impossible to win. And for the first time watching this, because I'm older now, I was like, the owner is kind of right. Falco has not really shown a lot in these games, and you do have a star quarterback who is a Super Bowl winner. So you may want to go back to him. Like, it's not a dumb decision.
But he doesn't know how to work with the team.
And he doesn't have heart.
He doesn't have heart.
Miles and miles of heart.
Funny moment with Taylor watching this with me. She goes, Dallas? Like the Dallas Cowboys? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, they're going to die.
She did know it was not the actual Dallas. No, she didn't. But the owner too, I was like, oh, I guess the owner's kind of leaving it up to him. But then the owner says they'd be heartbroken if you abandon them, which basically means like choose Martell or I'll fire you. I'm choosing him over you.
Sure.
Even though I'm going back on what I said. So then he tells Falco, and Martell in his final can't help by being a dick. But then this is so weird because he's like, yeah, it's bad that they make you feel like you guys have a chance or whatever. He's like, oh, you're always a dick. And then he says she deserves better.
Thank you for
How
bringing
does
this
he?
up.
How does he know that?
Or
How does
do
he
they?
know about that?
You know what? It made sense if they established some sort of like love triangle history with the three of them or something, but none of that.
Just like a thing where she's like, why don't you date players? And she's like, because Martell won't leave me alone. Something like that.
Yeah, or like I dated Martell and it was awful.
Yeah. Very tiny penis. But nothing like that. So then
She goes,
he
well, no, maybe that is implied because he's like even quarterbacks, and she goes, especially quarterbacks. Like, isn't that implied?
it's not spelled out well enough for me though. Like it's
Yeah,
not,
I
and I'm
agree.
not saying you got to dumb it down, but like it's got to be there. It's got to be
It's
in
just it's
text.
such a thing he says so left field. It took me aback, and I was like, what the fuck is this 7th grade?
It was a little bit poorly written, that part of it. Like there were a few. I mean, it's a football movie, so I don't care. But there were some things that like weren't established for, like I said, with the gambling addict thing. Like just
Yeah,
wasn't established well enough. So then he goes to his team and he says, "This Thursday you're playing with the best QB in the league," and he's like, "It's not me though."
one of my favorite parts of the movie is where he's telling Risa Fons almost like a secret, like, "Hey, I'm telling you this, but I'm not quite ready to tell the rest of the guys." And immediately Risa Fons is like, "Nah, fuck that. You're gonna tell the rest of the guys right now."
You have to tell everybody. Yeah. So let him give a speech. So we then get to the last game. He skipped his date with Annabelle. She gets over that pretty quickly when she sees him, though.
She does, but it's because of what Martell said to him, I guess.
No, it's because he's feeling bad about himself. This was his dream. He had decided to live his dream again, and it was taken from him. So yeah, that's why.
I also want to point out that like usually in these types of movies, the trope is that he decides that he doesn't want to go play with the rest of the team in the final game. And so there's like a sense like the rest of the team feel abandoned by him. And I think that would have hit. I don't know how they would have put this into the script, right? Put this into the plot, but I think that would have hit closer to like, oh, I'm not good enough to play with you guys. I suck. I'm having a pity party. But in this case, he's being forced to not play, so they can't even like be mad at him for it.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the way it was done here. So we see the first half of the final game. Falco is watching it from his boat on the smallest TV ever created. But with like,
it was big for 2000, okay?
but what seemed like HD quality, and I don't know if you remember watching TV back then, before like HD, it was shit. It was real bad.
You think it's green screen?
I don't know, or maybe just a videotape. Maybe it was like one of the final things they shot. They did the boat work at the end. I don't know.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Then the sumo at one point tells Martell to scramble, and I was like, well, why don't you guys fucking block somebody? Like it's not his job to scramble. You guys got to block people. Like telling the quarterback to run around. And then he yells at the deaf guy, and then I'm pretty sure gets the deaf guy hurt. I think calls a play to get the deaf guy hurt. His name's Brian. We should probably stop calling him the deaf guy, but he's the deaf guy. And then he throws it out of bounds purposely. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I call the plays." He's like, "No, you don't." He's like, "Yeah, I fucking do. What are you gonna do about it? Because like I'll still be here next week. You might be gone." And then they go to half, and he's like, "Nobody can beat Dallas with these losers." And he's like, "I think I can." He's like, "Where were you?" There was traffic.
It's about
Suit up.
time. Suit up. Like all the fucking tropes.
But I love Orlando Jones. Will somebody please get this asshole out of here? They just grab him. And then as Falco runs out, he's like, I know what's most important. He's like, I got to go over to this cheerleader and like keep that thing going. There's a great speech.
He can't be fraternizing with the cheerleaders.
He's like, I don't
Is
think
that
he
an
gives
actual
a shit.
rule?
Yeah, for most teams, yeah. I think because there was one cheerleader who like actually there was some fraternizing, and she quit and became his wife, that's the play. So there's a great speech from Gene Hackman. There's no tomorrow for you, and that makes you very dangerous people. And then the first play, they just get into a fucking fight, and the ref is like, I think it's 60. How many yards is that? Because there's multiple personal fouls. But then, as you said, Preacher gets his touchdown, breaks his knee. Favreau's like, give it to Wilkinson. He's going to jail tomorrow. And so it's like, oh, they've made up. And then also those are defenders, so now they're on offense, I guess. But no one explained to us that that's happening.
Right.
And then this next quote is so iconic that I almost did a double take because I was like, this is from this movie. This is the football movie where he's like, by the way, guys, I'm not good at speeches, but pain heals, chicks dig scars, and glory lasts forever. And I was like, I thought you weren't fucking good at speeches. Fucking great speech.
That's great. Yeah.
And then it comes down to a field goal, and Falco looks up at Nigel and just sees like, oh fuck, and he's like, they're gonna take me pub away. It's all I got.
I love it that he swipes the ball mid kick. Nigel breaks his arm, and then he's like, thank you.
But I don't even understand. That's the thing about this is like, there's no explanation of how that works because you wanted him to miss the kick so that team loses, unless they're doing like prop bets that like no field goals were going to be made.
I was thinking fuck that A24 film about betting.
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
Oh, it's
Uncut
just a prop. He
Gems.
was doing some prop bet.
Yeah. Although you're right though, because like, unless if it was a very specific prop bet, and then it's Nigel, I call him by his character name. It's Nigel's responsibility to lose the game, even if Keanu swipes the ball and runs it.
It doesn't make any damn sense. Especially
That's what I mean. That's what I mean by it ended like too cutesy.
Well, just especially in 2000, like, prop bets are. I mean, now it's a very, very common thing that people know about. But then it's like they go on to win the game. So they next play score a touchdown on a Falco run, but you can see the flag being thrown, so they're gonna have to do it again. And then just the perfect anticipation pass.
Is that offsides?
What? The penalty?
Yeah.
It was holding. They said it was holding.
I
The
don't know.
sumo guy held a guy.
Oh, okay.
You're not allowed to grab a guy on the outside of his jersey and hold him.
Oh, okay.
But a perfect anticipation pass to Brian Murphy, aka the deaf guy.
Roy from The Office.
Yeah, Pam's fiance. And then we Can Be Heroes, which this is the second movie we've done that I know of with that song.
What was the first?
Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Of course.
But that was Bowie, and this is the Wallflowers.
It makes you think, right?
What does it make you think?
It makes you think, why couldn't they do the Wallflowers for the movie called Perks of Being a Wallflower?
That's actually pretty fun. I mean, so listen, I have no problem with the Wallflowers. I like them. I like One Headlight, but the Bowie version's better.
Yeah, sure, of course.
This one's pretty good too, though. And then
if I look it up, we'll probably figure out that Bowie didn't even record that song until like 2001.
I doubt.
I doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, highly doubt. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a music guy. Then you got Hackman just narrating the ending of this. Just like, hey, this is what this movie meant, guys. Like, none of them are gonna play again, but they did it for the love of the game. And then they just redo the jail song and dance to "I Will Survive" to end the movie.
It's so good. Like that whole thing of like building the camaraderie between he recorded in 1977. Forget it. Yeah, but the whole like camaraderie between it was so. I don't know. That's probably my favorite part. Yeah, that's my favorite part of the movie is getting the team together, fighting in the bar, and singing to "I Will Survive."
So the Washington team is loosely based on the 1987 replacement Washington Redskins. You're not supposed to say Redskins anymore, but that's what they were called back then. They won 3 games, and then the real players returned in week 7 and went on to win the Super Bowl. And it took that shittily run organization until 2018 to give Super Bowl rings to the replacement players that won 3 games, because without those 3 wins, the Redskins wouldn't have even made the playoffs that year, and they couldn't give them fucking Super Bowl rings. Just
Crazy.
great. But yeah, it's sort of based off that. This is Jack Warden, who is the owner of the team in this movie. This was his last film. And I don't have really like any alternate castings though.
No?
No. So that's it. Like I said, it's just this is kind of this movie is a perfect example of like why we do this podcast, because even though this is like you said like, oh yeah, it's pretty good, I enjoyed it. Because when I watched this, I watched it when it came out. I was younger. It's in that sweet spot, that zone where you're really like formed by the movies you see. This movie still hits for me 24 years later. And
Wow.
not the best, but I love it. Glad we did it.
I'm gonna stick to my guns and saying what I said at the beginning is, I wanted something more, but I think going through it like this did make me appreciate the parts that I actually liked. I really liked. So for that, I it's up there.
You're such a dick, Martel. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of I Finally Watched. This is David.
And this is Alain, and I finally watched The Replacements.